Are there any poor locals in UAE? Emiratis are a pampered lot here: free education, healthcare, and heavily discounted utility bills, management positions in government as soon as they graduate, short working hours, grants for marriages, housing, free land allotted by the government. These are some of the perks most Emiratis have as a birthright. In addition, they are the landlords of the majority of the buildings in the country, and also a necessary business partner for most establishments set up in the country. They have so many streams of revenue, it seems that they will invariably be rich. One obvious exception is when they squander everything on luxury boats, trips, gambling, etc. There is no amount of money that makes it impossible to squander it all off. However, even they tend to have some safety nets to avoid absolute poverty. There are Emiratis who are poor, because of poor investments made, being too proud to ask for handouts, and societal pressure that forces them to keep up with their peers, who generally live exorbitantly. It's like if all your neighbors own Rolls Royces and Bentleys, but your financial situation only allows for a Lexus. You feel duty-bound to buy Rolls Royces on loan. Roughly 7.2% of the poor people in the country are Emiratis. This figure is outdated, from 2010, capturing people who earn less than 80 United Arab Emirates dirhams per day. This is probably an extremely low percentage of the total number of Emiratis in the country. I don't have the figures, but still a surprising number when I first read it. Note that while they are poor, note that they aren't destitute, they will get government support, and will not go hungry. In addition, there are undocumented nomads living in the desert. There are no official stats, but these people make up a tiny fraction of Emiratis, and are technically living in poverty. So yes, there are some poor locals in the UAE. They're usually the exception, and have a safety net from the gov, if they wish to apply for it. Poorness is subjective. Some see poor as unable to afford the latest gadgets regularly, some see poor as unable to feed their children at a constant basis. Before the war, the poorest Syrians were the ones who could afford breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So, to restate Gaurav City's answer above, what does define poorness for you? There are many specialist foundations in the UAE that would assist any poor locals, greater than the UAE's federal law No. 2 of 2001 regarding social security law states that widows, orphans, special needs, elderly, divorced and some other groups can receive financial aid from the government. There are rules that apply before helping needy families. Specialized centers look at income, properties owned, the ratio of family members to rooms, rent cost and health status. Less than the national. Greater than the results show that out of 16.9% of the poor residents, 7.2% are Emiratis. People living under DH80 a day, or DH2,400 a month, are considered poor. This amount for a family of 6, the size of the average Emirati family, is not enough to fulfill basic needs. Less than greater than the federal or local government gives support to 27.1% of Emiratis. Help can be provided as part of the citizens' salaries. In addition to their basic salaries, some people receive money for house rent and school fees for their children. Less than greater than other than my basic salary, the company I work for pays for my children's education, health insurance and part of my house rent, says Saeed Mohammed, an Emirati father of 4. With the high cost of living, it would be hard for many householders to provide their family with an average lifestyle without the help of the government. Less than many people who work in many companies here in the UAE get benefits like paying for their children's schools, health insurance, rent, etc. What is the meaning of poor? Firstly, know that, I would say there are no poor people in Dubai, UAE itself. This includes the expats also. Nobody here has ever died starving in Dubai. Everybody in UAE has a basic facilities like accommodation, food, AC, etc. I would say they are not poor. The correct word would be they are not wealthy. Of course they have a house, job, basic facilities, and gov helps them so much. It's just that they are not wealthy.